Hello, my name is Zach Collins and this is No to Pro. Now, for those that don't know me, for those that are new to the channel, this is where I document my journey going from a below average runner to the Brisbane Olympics marathon in 2032. Now, if you are a long-time viewer of the channel, you will know that I am a very much proponent of power for running rather than pace. Now, power is still very much a contentious metric when it comes to running. In cycling, it is the gold standard, the baseline. Power is it. You do not care what any other metrics say. Power is what you focus on when you're training. In running, however, it's very much hit and miss. There's not really a standard of what is power. So there's so many different devices that measure it differently, and so that's why there's a bit of confusion. But it is still something I track. Now, what I want to do today is I want to compare across few different runs how it affects the run itself, because it makes such a big difference. If you are going to do a marathon such as Berlin, where it is mostly a bit of a net downhill, you start off downhill, there's a bit of ups, there's some hills. How do you pace that? With just pace, you can't. If you look at Sydney is very similar. It's a net downhill, but there is a 300 meters of elevation in that 440k. So how do you pace a run that is ups and downs and is like so different? That is what power does. You can keep the exact same power across your whole run. Your pace will change, but your power is consistent, and that means you get the exact same effort, start to finish, and you can finish strong. Start strong, finish strong. And so that's what I want to do. So personally, I use the Stride Power Meter. I've been using it since about 2019, and I found it is amazing. I would love to get the new one. I think a new version 6 came out a couple months ago. But yeah, I don't have a spare $1,000 to upgrade. Maybe when, no, version 5 it was. Maybe when version 6 comes out, I'll grab that one in a couple of years. But what I want to do now is I'll dive into two different runs and show you just how big a difference pacing and power makes, and why power is what I focus on when it comes to my running. It is quite interesting. Let's get in. Okay, so here we are. This is the run that I did a couple of days ago on the 5th of April. And I tried to hold roughly about 250 watts for the whole run. Now, 250 is probably a bit over my easy pace. Easy runs would be about 240 to 245. So I went a little bit harder, but good for like a final long run before Canberra Marathon. Time of filming, it is this weekend. But when you see this, it'll probably be a couple of weeks ago, so I don't have that data. But what I want to show you is the difference that I will do the exact same power, and I want to show you guys what happens when changing elevation, because this is the biggest key thing. When you are running on a flat terrain, a track, pace and power is basically identical. If you're doing 250, say that's 5 minutes per K. If you're doing 300, then that's 4 minutes, 4:30. When you're doing 500, now that's 3 minutes per K, whatever. Numbers, power, pace, it's all arbitrary and all personal to you. But in this case, let's look at my power and my numbers. So based on my current weight, because weight is a big factor. And so we'll look at the difference between when you're going uphill, downhill, and flat, because each of them is different. So let's start off with an uphill. What happens if I push 250 watts when going uphill? So you can see it's about 3.5% average gradient, 22 meters of elevation for 5 minutes. So average 249 watts. Cool, perfect, too easy. And I average 736 per K for that. Now my heart rate's 144, and you can see it goes up and down based on the elevation. As it flattens out, it's a bit stabilizes, but goes up as per the elevation. But pace, you can see pace as well slows down as it flattens out. Speed up a bit, and then goes back to increases gradient again, and slow down. But power, few ups and downs, but overall it's fairly consistent. That is the thing. This power, 249 watts, it's not, it's fairly consistent. But you can see 736. this is what I'll be comparing against. So 3.5% gradient is quite a bit of a hill. So let's have a look at what happens when I actually go downhill. So let's get this section here. What happens here? So I'll get pretty similar sort of timeline. So almost 5 minutes, down minus 2.5%. Now a little bit faster, so 5 or 6 watts faster. So 255 watts versus I think it was 249. So all in all about the same. Now you can see heart rate is the same. So it was 144 versus 143. So, same. 606 though. 606 per K versus 736. Power, basically the same. Heart rate, basically the same. But pace, a minute 30 per K faster. So if you are doing a race and you're like, oh, I'm trying to do 6 minutes per K. If it's a pan flat K race, cool, go off pace. But if it's got elevation, you think you're going, oh, I'm going too hard. But you might not actually be going too hard. Because if you're going downhill at the start and you're doing 5 minutes per K, now I'm almost in the exact same power, but a minute 30 per K faster. So if I'm only doing a minute per K faster, I might actually not be putting as much power and effort into that run. So I might actually be going too easy. And the same if you're going up on a climb. If you are then going, let's say 8 minutes per K, you might be going easy. Or if you're going 7 minutes, you might actually be going too hard, because 7:30 might actually be the sort of pacing that you actually want to be doing. So let's have a look here. This is a bit of a nice flat area. You don't get too many flats in Goulburn. Let's get it roughly about 5 minutes. So average grade, so 3 meters of elevation gain. You can see I actually push a little bit harder, so it's 258 watts. Heart rate, similar sort of zones, 146, but 636 per K. So 30 seconds per K slower than the downhill section, but probably a minute per K faster than the uphill section. Now it is a bit of a higher power, but let's say if we dropped it down to actually 250, it'll be 645. Let's use 645 as sort of 250 watt equivalent. So what are you seeing here? We're seeing that 6 minutes per K is what happens on a minus 2% gradient. We're seeing that on the flats, 645 per K is what I do at 250. But when I'm going uphill, I'm doing 730 per K. So it is so important, because each gradient will mean you need to do different pacing for that same power. I don't know what the gradient is. I don't know how to pace a hill. With power, you can. I can say, I'm going to stick to 250, 260, 270, whatever it may be. You stick to that power, and then all of a sudden, bam, you are consistent, and you can hold that for the whole run. You might have different pacing. You might start off slow or faster and whatever, but over the whole race, you will be matching exactly what you need to do. You'll get to a point where you have achieved the maximum you can do, because you're not focusing on pace, you're focusing on output. Now, let's look at a second run that I did a couple of weeks ago. And in this run, I did 2 by 10 minutes. Now, I wasn't super happy with them. I tried to do 285 watts, but you can see here, the first one I did 280, and the second one I did 277. But again, so you can see here, 629 per K. Okay, fine, happy with that. Heart rate 155. Now heart rate here 156, about the same. Cadence 178. Cadence 178. Ground contact time 296, 293. Perfect, all in the same sort of region. Different pacing though. This is 630. So in this 10-minute section, there's 29 meters of elevation gain. But we look at this one, 3 watts slower, 23 meters. So that extra 6 meters added an extra 15 seconds per K. I went slower on this one, but I put out more power because you're going up a hill. It then tapers off a bit, but basically it's just all up a hill. This one, up a little bit of hill, and then it's all downhill. So all this elevation gain is up in the first couple of minutes, first 4 minutes, and then 6 minutes of downhill. I cannot pace that. How do you pace a downhill and an uphill? You can't. You can with power though. You hold your consistent power. 280 watts, 277, and you can see that makes such a big difference. 15 seconds per K, and just by pacing appropriately. Now, I hope what I've been able to demonstrate in these two different runs has helped you actually have a thought about maybe I should be using power. Is this something that I am missing from my training, from my racing? Am I pacing properly? Should I be racing to power rather than an arbitrary pace? If I want to do, so I've got my race coming up in this weekend. Check my Strava if you want to see how I actually did. But if I want to do, say, 285 watts. Now, Stride says that 285 watts will be about a 406. So if I want to do sub 4, I got to do about 290 watts, give or take. If I focus on 290, because this has got 300 meters of elevation. Now, I don't know where the elevation will be. There might be sections that are flat, sections up and down. If I focus on whatever that pacing is, and I just hold that pace, I will go too hard on the uphills. I will burn out on the uphills. But I will be leaving time on the table in the downhills. Maybe on the flats, it is perfect. It's perfect pacing. I'm not going too hard, too easy. It's nice and consistent. But that's why I'm going by power. Because if I go too hard on the hills, I won't be able to sustain it. And if I go too easy on the downhills, it's going to be wasting time. So that is why I train to power, because it is about consistency. It's about absolutely doing perfect pacing. It's not going too hard. It's not going too easy. It's doing the session as you're supposed to do the session. So if you guys did find that sort of thing interesting, please make sure you like and subscribe, because I do this sort of videos all the time. I've got some race videos coming out. I've got some travel stuff. So if you're interested in all that, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers. But do let me know if I have convinced you to start using power, because not many people do when it comes to running. I'm not going to say I'm a maverick, but I do think there's some stuff that people are missing out on. There's a little trick here, and I think there's ways that you can improve your training just by changing your metrics. Power over pace.